Everything old is new again. America's entertainment pop culture talk show.
It may well possess a rudimentary intelligence.
I'm trying to think, but nothing happens.
Felt a great disturbance in the force.
Hello, I'm Mr. Red.
Come on, Mark, like a job for me.
Where's the goodies? Leave the gun. Take the cannoli.
I bet you wouldn't have done anything like this if Mom and Dad were here.
You filthy criminal.
Excuse me while I whip this out.
Go ahead. Make my day.
Here are your hosts, Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
The key to faking out the parents is the clammy hands. It's a good non-specific symptom. I'm a big believer in it. A lot of people will tell you that a good phony fever is a deadlock, but you get a nervous mother, you could wind up in a doctor's office. That's worse than school. Life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
Welcome back to Everything Old is New again here this week. We are going to continue our discussion of movies that shaped our lives. Third show of these shows have been very well received. And we're going to continue with this until we run out of movies, which might be this show, but we'll see. And I'm here with Flick himself, David Cohen.
Flick. First time I think I've ever gotten like a one-word nickname. I like it.
Flick being, of course, another word for movies.
I'm glad you explained that to everyone.
Make sure you
that
get
was helpful.
Well, I was explaining to you. I think everyone else got it. But so now the question is...
which is why I'm glad you explained it to everyone, so I can understand it too.
Ferris Bueller's Day Off, 1986, David Cohen. That's one of yours. What did that have with respect to your influence upon you?
Well, other than it just being a really funny movie and a fun movie to watch, for me, it had an impact on me. I think the message of the movie was very positive, and especially for me, had an impact on me just to, just not feel like you have to go with the flow all the time, that you can just do something a little crazy outside, your comfort zone, as they say, and do something a little dangerous just to shake things up. And I think... maybe not right away, but at some point that, his whole attitude, Ferris Bueller, and what happened in the movie and the risks he took and that whole thing, I think, helped me make some choices in my life that I don't want to say, give 100% credit to this movie, but it definitely helped me take some chances in my life. And I think for that reason, I'll always appreciate it. And of course, he was great in it, and the story was great, and it was funny, and I don't know. I can go on for a long time about it, but I won't. Did you like it?
I did. Showed it to the kids as well. They enjoyed it. It was reminiscent of me, I think, in high school and before, where I would take a lollipop, a cherry lollipop, and put it sort of in the back of my throat and suck on a little bit in the morning, and then my father would look down my throat and see red and say, "Well, you're staying home from school. You got a sore throat today." And
he really fell for that.
He fell for that. Oh yeah, and or the thermometer I would heat up between my when he wasn't looking between my two fingers and get it hot and put it back in my mouth, and then the tip. So, and the point of that was to have some fun, just to do something that you didn't do. I didn't go out of the house and do stuff that like Ferris Bueller did, but we did stuff like that also, like outside the box in high school. We've told the story before, where we'd be in class and I would see you in a class. The window would be open and I'd grab you and drag you out of the window and out of health. Or
we used to kidnap friends by dragging them outside. They'd be sitting in a chair in the back of a classroom with the window open, and it was all in single floor school. Right. We would just pull them out of the window, out of the classroom.
Have some fun and walk around. And we walked around the halls, and we actually stayed third. We called it we called it ninth period. We had eight periods in school, and then you'd go home, or there'd be the after school bus. So we'd have ninth period where you and I and a couple others started to catch on. Didn't have any activities, but we stayed anyway, and we would just hang out in school and do whatever. And
we would disrupt the activities that were happening.
Pretty much.
Because if you can't join them, beat them.
Remember, we would walk by the classroom where they would have the band. And we would say, a Second City TV routine. Bobby Bittman, we'd say, "How are ya?" And walk by. And sooner or later, we got into trouble doing that, if you remember.
We got into trouble, but I remember they were waiting for us to do it after a while. Like, they would see us and they go, "Oh, look, they're there. They were going to do it." It became like a thing.
For about a week and a half before it became too disruptive to the...
Yes, before we were told never to do that.
But then we moved on to the next adventure. So, all right. So, how about another one? Groundhog Day.
To get what his heart wants most.
What are you looking for, Phil? A date for the weekend?
Means living this day over again. Till he gets it right.
Believe it or not, I studied 19th century French poetry.
What a waste of time.
I studied 19th century French poetry.
La fille qui j'aimerais.
You speak French?
Oui. To the groundhog.
I always drink to world peace. Well, what should we drink to?
I like to say a prayer and drink to world peace.
There we go. Bill Murray, David Cohen's movie. There's another one. What do you think about this here? What's this about?
I almost don't want to talk about it. There are like college courses that are based on this movie. So it's been talked about more so than anyone wants to hear. But yeah, again, it was the experience of seeing it, I think, for the first time and going through that story where he wakes up every day and every day is the same. And as the story unfolds, you start realizing how many times he's gone through the same day where he's learning French and he's becoming an expert piano player and how long this must have gone on just so he could, win over his love interest. It was crazy. And the lesson, of course, that's learned at the end of the movie. But yeah, I think the first time seeing it, I'd never seen another movie like that with that theme to it. A little bit of time travel, which I'm sure you appreciated, Doug.
Yes.
And the message again was to me was something that I think hit home with me as well. That I don't know what the message was other than just try to be a good person, which is I think really what he was trying to do in the end.
Well, it made him become a good person because that's what she wanted in a person, and so she kept on stressing that, and he was not a good person at the beginning, and he became a good person, and through his lessons that he learned, he was able to overcome, his what would you say, his misanthrope attitude. So he got the girl, and boy, that changed his life forever. And just the varying repetitions of certain scenes that they did in the film, like meeting the insurance salesman, who would see him, Phil, you'd meet him, and they must have done, 7 or 8 iterations of that scene, and just the different ways he handled it was so fun to see. I would like to have seen or read or whatever heard about behind the scenes and what influence Bill Murray, who's a creative mind, had behind doing that. I bet you he had a lot to do with at least the creation of the over and over again and what's going to happen. How about we try this? Why don't we try that?
Probably.
So it would have been fun to see about that.
There you go.
How about this one?
Adding
What's
on
this?
a smoke screen of bourgeois cliches. I don't go messing about with your earphones, do I?
Spoiled sport.
Well?
He's very fussy about his drums, They loom large in his legend.
I thought I was supposed to be getting a change of scenery, and so far I've been in a train and a room, and a car and a room, and a room and a room.
Hey, kids, I got an idea. Well, why don't we do the show right here? Yeah!
There we go, David Cohen. We know that's his Hard Day's Night. Not on the list for some reason, on mine, in that, and I'm sure you'll explain. But, of course, the Beatles were a big influence with me growing up musically and the message they had in their music and so forth, and the adventure of having them get involved with movies. It was a whole nother thing, a little before my time, but to see and hear that they were actually, a band was actually in a movie, and they were really good in it and funny. Just sort of sit it out there, that you can be what you want to be. Who put that path in front of them? Who thought that's what these four were going to do and end up doing? So they just did what they loved, and look what happened as a result. Yeah, and the movie itself was, there was a quote that Roger Ebert came out about it, and it escapes my mind, but we talked about it on another show. The feeling that you got, I think he summed up the movie perfectly. It was almost like I'm not going to do it justice, but something like a celebration of life, like a reaffirmation of life, watching this movie and the fun that these guys are having in it. And the fun that you're having being on this
in this experience with them. Whether or not you like them, that was what was really brilliant about the movie. Whether you like the Beatles, you knew who they were, or you like the music or whatever, they were very charming people, and they were in a very unique situation. And this was sort of supposed to be like a day in the life of them as a band. But just the exuberance and the fun that they were having, it was just infectious. I remember seeing it on the 50th anniversary. I think it was the 50th anniversary in a theater here in Manhattan. Never saw it in a theater before. And it was great. The theater was packed and people were laughing. I mean, it was like seeing the movie again for the first time, but with a shared experience, which hadn't happened the first 100 times I saw the movie. So it was different. And the music, when the music played and they finished a song, the people in the theater were clapping.
How about that?
It was like they were at a concert. So it was just, that made it even more special for me. So
it's a great special movie, great special time of life. We'll be back right at this and Everything Old is New again and continue talking all things pop culture, including movies that affected our lives.
It's been a hard day's night, and I've been working like a dog.
This is Everything Old is New Again, America's entertainment pop culture talk show with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
Fat, drunk, and stupid is no way to go through life, son.
You guys up for a toga party?
Toga! Toga!
Yeah, I think they like the idea, Hoove.
War's over, man. Wormer dropped the big one.
What? Over? Did you say over? Nothing is over until we decide it is. Was it over when the Germans bombed Pearl Harbor? Hell no!
It's not over yet either here, and Everything Old is New again, having some fun looking at movies that shaped our lives. Animal House, of course. David Cohen would have been on my list, I think, as well, but was certainly on yours. So, David Cohen, take it away. How did this affect your life?
Yeah, again, well, this movie today has some questionable moments in it that I don't think they would ever do again in this day and age. But with that said, it's such a funny movie to me. I think one of the funniest ever done. I don't know. This was another thing, Doug. Like, it was a time and place when I saw it, when I was going through a similar experience as when you and I were in high school. And at that point, we were waiting for college to go off to college, and this movie came out. It sort of like showed you the fun that can be had, when we're out and we're out in the college world and making new friends and the possibilities there. And it was just raucous and it was funny, and you rooted for the guys in Delta House. They were all losers, but for some reason you just really rooted for them. And John Belushi was just a force in and of himself. It was just quoted. We went to toga parties in high school, right? That's what an influence this had on younger people of the day. It just had that sort of lasting, kind of very happy, funny impact that you don't find, I think, in a lot of movies today.
The main thing is that when I saw that movie, I wanted to interview Karen Allen. And then I had the opportunity to interview her later on in life on the Everything Old is New Again show. And if you want to find that interview, you can. It's there on all our old podcasts that are out there on every podcast station or our website, everythingoldisnewagain.biz. But David Cohen, we did interview Karen Allen. We had some fun with her as well.
Yeah, we did. And we talked about that movie, of course. For someone like you and me, like, you can't undo the influence it had on us, right?
Correct.
And the reverence we had for that movie when it came out.
Right.
You can't just undo that because there are a few scenes that, I certainly wouldn't approve of at an advanced age now.
But we're all creatures of our time.
Really.
I mean, unfortunately, or fortunately, whatever. We're in our time. We're growing up. We're formative years, and that's out there. So there is it's a different show. There is the influence of pop culture on you as a youth, for sure. And that is our show here, but we didn't not examining that. But certainly that is what's out there, and so that sometimes it is important to have the right message presented. We were a creature of our times. That was it. That was a big hit. Everyone saw it. Everyone enjoyed it. No one made any judgments, whatever, right, wrong, or difference, and probably some wrong for sure. But that's what it was at the time. So we did. It's part of our lives. You can't take it away. Okay, so here we go.
Oh, I found this quote from Roger Ebert. If you want to.
Yes, on the Hard Day's Night.
A Hard Day's Night. So he says, after more than 3 decades, it has not aged and is not dated. It stands outside its time, its genre, and even rock. It is one of the great life-affirming landmarks of the movies.
But you can't go beyond that. So there it is.
High praise from.
If you haven't seen it, just because it's black and white doesn't mean it's not worth it. Come on. Hard Day's Night. How about this one? I keep mentioning this one, and you still haven't seen it yet. But I'll have to try one more time. Mad
Sylvester,
World.
will you listen? Something's happened. There was an accident this morning. A man got killed.
Who, Mom? Who got killed?
Now listen.
Hey, you all right?
Pay attention.
Is this all right?
Sylvester, will you listen?
What's the matter, Mom?
Sylvester, can you hear me? There's a whole fortune in cash, and you can get it before anybody gets it. But you've got to hurry. Do you hear?
Hey, what's the matter, Mama? Hey, now, what's going on there? Are you all right?
Of course I'm all right. Sylvester!
Hey, Russell Emmeline with you?
Sylvester, forget about Russell. Will you just shut up and let me talk?
You stay right there, because I'm coming. I'm coming to get you right now.
Will you shut up and listen?
Mom, it's all right. Everything's going to be all right, Mom. Your baby's coming to get you. You just sit there. Sit there, relax, take it easy.
Sylvester!
Coming to get you, Mom.
Shut up and
Everything's going to be all right.
There we go. A little piece of Mad World. 3-hour movie with an intermission.
Wow, really?
Yeah, it more than any other movie as far as comedy is concerned, including Animal House. This movie makes me laugh consistently, always, and represents my sense of humor. You really need to get involved with this movie.
Okay, all right, I'm going to watch it.
It is
I have
so
to watch
fun,
it now.
and it's still we don't have to get it down that road, but it's still appropriate to this day. It's good, clean humor, good, clean fun. Well worth your time. I'll just leave it at that. It's you're going to smile. There's no doubt you have to and will smile and laugh when you see that movie. So we'll leave it at that.
I didn't expect that one. Okay,
it's a great one. How about this one for David Cohen?
You mean, let me understand this, because I'm funny how? I mean, funny like I'm a clown, I amuse you, I make you laugh? What do you mean funny? Funny how? How am I funny?
No, just, you know how you tell a story. What?
No, I don't know. You said it. How do I know? You said I'm funny. Tell me what's funny.
Get out of here, Tommy.
Yep, I almost had him.
There we go. Good fellas. Talk about funny. It's not a mad world funny movie. It is a different kind of funny, David Cohen.
Yeah, there were some funny moments, but it's like The Godfather sort of introduced everyone to the underworld, the mafia, but Goodfellas brought you inside, because obviously it was told from the standpoint of a real life former mobster and based on some real life events that took place. So, what I loved about Goodfellas is that you were, kind of in the story with everyone, and you were going through what this kid growing up went through, and saw what apparently, what at least was told to us was, this is what it's like. This is what it's really like. I mean, I know you like The Godfather, but this is what life in the mob was like. And just the ruthlessness, and that was the part I think that got to me, was just the utter lack of remorse or feeling for wrongdoings, whether they were robberies or murders or anything that became ingrained in these characters was just fascinating to me. And the story itself was it was a crazy story from start to end, and great music in it as well, which is a whole other thing. But yeah, so to me, it was like a seminal movie as far as really understanding what's happening in a world that I knew very little of and had very little to do with.
And interesting how that's over The Godfather, so to speak. You didn't mention or put it in your list, right? Or it's not in mine. And it's a wonderful movie, and it's kind of not really the right word, but it's just done so well. The two Godfathers are great movies that take you down a road. But do they affect my life? Did they affect my life? No. But Goodfellas gave you a bit of reality dose, let's put it that way.
Exactly.
And boy, it does last with you. How about this one, The Killing Mockingbird? So many people forget about this movie.
In this country, our courts are the great levelers. In our courts, all men are created equal. I'm no idealist. To believe firmly in the integrity of our courts and of our jury system, that's no ideal to me. That is a living, working reality.
Miss Jean Louise? Miss Jean Louise, stand up. Your father's passing.
The grace, the nobility, the point of view of this community that saw this gentleman, this Atticus trying to do what's right in the court system and losing, and still on the way out of the courtroom, the whole community stands up in respect for what he tried to do to overcome this horrendous racist situation that developed in The Kill a Mockingbird. And the lesson that left with me was, you don't always have to win, and of course you want to win, but there's nobility in trying. And boy, I'm still struggling with the underlying issues, of course, to this day, which is rather unfortunate. And I think that this movie is as relevant then as, and that was what the heck was that? I think the book was in the 30s for sure. So anyway, it's as relevant then as it is now, and I think it really had a profound impact, not only from the legal side. Of course, I became a lawyer, but more than that, just treating all of us with respect that we all deserve. Does that make any sense?
Oh, it makes a lot of sense. Sure. Yeah, and from as a movie, it was a great novel as well.
Right.
And I think the movie did a great job of capturing and bringing to life the novel, even though in a much more condensed way. But Gregory Peck, right? I mean, he was the essence of Atticus, right? You just believed he was Atticus, right? You wouldn't have pictured him in any other way. For me, one of the moments I'll always remember in that movie is when Scout, they're coming for the prisoner, and Atticus is kind of standing watch outside the prison, right. And the townspeople come up, and they're going to get this guy, and they're going to go through Atticus if they have to. And then Scout steps forward and recognizes one of the guys, with the pitchforks, mm-hmm. and just completely diffuses the situation, like brings it back down to reality, like, oh wow, there's a kid and she knows me, she's talking to me, and then it diffused the whole situation. And I don't know, I was always very moved by that, surprised when I first saw it, like just blown away by that moment. And it's always stayed with me, just the power of how children can sort of bring things back to sanity, to some sense of where you are in the moment and what you're actually doing.
Absolutely.
Calling you out on it,
Especially as being a parent, but beyond that, of course, but especially as being a parent, and that character was, just the power of the innocence of the children, is so strong, and something we should kind of follow a little bit in these days. We'll be back right at this, and everything old is new again. These days, the news is full of teen suicide, drug and alcohol abuse, bullying. It's depressing and concerning, but there is hope. WWE Intercontinental Champion Mark Mero.
Champion Choice is a live presentation that empowers students to make positive choices and live their best life. I teach students how to live a drug-free life, prevent bullying, avoid peer pressure, and keep negative people out of their lives. We are defined by our choices. There is hope.
To schedule a Champion Choices presentation for your school or organization, visit thinkpaz.org. That's thinkpaz.org.
You're listening to Everything Old is New Again, America's entertainment pop culture talk show with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
What do you want?
I just want to know that it's really happening.
I recently had a close encounter with something very unusual.
Who are you people? I can see in the shape.
Damn it, I know this. I know what this is.
This means something.
What did you expect to find?
An answer.
Welcome back to Everything Old is New Again. Close Encounters of the Third Kind, 1977. We're talking about movies that had an impact upon our lives. David Cohen, that's one of yours. You've mentioned that to Peter Weller in the past. You've got quite a response. You also mentioned Animal House to Peter Weller in the past and got quite a response. So
I have a very lowbrow appreciation of the arts.
I just thought those were great. You want to see those references. We've got a ton of Peter Weller shows. Go back. He's a great guest. A lot of fun. David Cohen, Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
There was a part in that movie, as I was listening to that, where Richard Dreyfuss's daughter starts crying because she thinks her father's insane, right? He's taking mud from the backyard and he's recreating this like structure that he's seen when he saw this other life form. Well, actually, I don't even think he saw it yet. It was just like, I don't know. Somehow he knew about it. And he was reconstructing these like mud towers in the house. And she started crying because her dad was crazy. And as it turns out, he was right. He knew what he was talking about. And there was an actual visitation and a close encounter, as they say, of the third kind. For me, the movie was just cinematically amazing. I saw it in the theater, and just the spaceship landing and the use of music as the way to communicate with them. Just like creatively, like I just couldn't believe what I was seeing. Like, wow, who thought of this? This is like blowing me away. More so than E.T. I like they came out around the same time. I like Close Encounters a lot better than I liked E.T. So yeah, it just resonated with me in that way.
How about that? I can understand that. I could see an individual standing up for what they believe in against all odds, and obviously being rewarded for that in some way with, if you will, with his close encounter at the end of the film.
Yeah, there was a payoff. That was a great part. He got to see it as well. So
great science fiction. Love science fiction. Talking about science fiction, how about Forbidden Planet?
You understand the mechanism?
Yes, Morpheus. A simple blaster.
All right. Now turn around here. Point it at the commander. Aim right between the eyes. Fire. You see? He's helpless. Locked in a sub-electronic dilemma between my direct orders and his basic inhibitions against harming rational beings. Cancelled. If I were to allow that to continue, he would blow every circuit in his body.
About that. The most underrated science fiction movie of all time. People have forgotten about it. It's not on the list. If you go to look for a movie you want to rent on demand, you have to know this movie exists before you can search and find it. For some reason, it's the basis of Star Trek. It's the basis of the career of Leslie Nielsen, who later on, in Poseidon Adventure, later on was involved in Airplane. He's been a captain of all three of these vessels, and made. It's funny. 3 of his movies made our list of movies that affected us, and I just think that's hysterical. But the idea that Forbidden Planet introduced robotics and robots to me, and the rules of robots, that Isaac Asimov's Rules of Robots, and the id, and talking about what you have underneath who you are and what's making you do what you do, and could that possibly evolve or devolve into some kind of a monster, or at least ruin your life, if you will. I mean, there's so many levels on this movie. It's so fun. It stands up to this day. I challenge you to watch it and tell me you didn't enjoy the adventure and just marvel at even the special effects from 1956. David Cohen.
Yeah, I'm going to watch. I promise you I'll watch it. We've talked about it over the years. I keep saying I'm going to watch it, and I don't. But I will.
So that and Mad World you have, okay?
Yes.
And Peter Weller also, by the way, has talked to us about Forbidden Planet, if you remember, and he laughed because I gave that little synopsis, and he said, well, I enjoyed that movie just because of Anne Francis swimming in the pool in her birthday suit, if you will. So,
there are many reasons to like that movie.
Exactly. How about The Shining, David Cohen?
Little pigs, let me come in. Not by the hair on your chinny chin chin. Then I'll huff, and I'll puff, and I'll blow your house in. Here's Johnny.
Oh boy, David, what do you got for that? That's one of your babies.
Even though Stephen King always hated that movie, it was a great horror movie. It really shook me when I saw it. Just the concept of being alone in that giant hotel, and Jack Nicholson, that iconic role he played. The Here's Johnny thing. Remember the ads for that movie that you used to see on TV? They would play that one. That would be one of the highlights from the movie. There were some moments when you just laughed at how crazy his character became, and then there were moments when it was just terrifying, just absolutely terrifying. Just the way it was shot, and I can't put it into words. Some of these movies I've suggested just visually, I guess, and emotionally, just isn't it weird? Just they impact you, and You can't explain how for every one of these movies, but they just do, and they stay with you, right, for the rest of your life, just about.
Yeah, and the isolation of being in this area with all the all the snow around, and the one fella, Scatman Crothers, is maybe friendly, and you think he'll help out, and what happens to him, and just it's silent horror. It really is just a silent horror ghost story, and I understand why Stephen King didn't like it, because they did leave out a lot of things from the book that explain what's going on here that sometimes you're not understanding in this movie. I'm sorry to say, right?
No, and that's a good point, because there was a lot of things in the movie I still don't understand why they were happening, but I was still scared by them, that they were happening.
Right.
But so I could see that too.
I could see that. Did they make a remake? I could see them doing a remake if they stick to the story a little bit. It would add another point of view to it if it's done well. But it is such a classic. You may want to stay away from doing that. Yeah. But okay, I get you on that one. How about On the Waterfront with Marlon Brando?
It wasn't him, Charlie. It was you. You remember that night in the garden? You came down my dressing room and said, "Kid, this ain't your night. We're going for the price on Wilson." You remember that? This ain't your night. My night, I could have taken Wilson apart. So what happens? He gets the title shot outdoors in a ballpark, and what do I get? A one-way ticket to Palookaville. You don't understand. I could have had class. I could have been a contender. I could have been somebody. Instead of a bum, which is what I am. Let's face it.
I got to tell you, this movie, to me, what a sleeper. I saw this some Saturday afternoon. Parents were out, whatever, and I didn't know what this was. It was a black and white movie. It was about the mob a little bit, or unions. I didn't know what unions were, and this is a whole world. I had no idea. And longshoremen, and what are they fighting against, and what is it? And then you get involved, and, it goes beyond the act. The acting is beyond in this movie, but even beyond that, which is not fair because the acting is tremendously affecting. But beyond that is this story, the characterization and the way these people talk and what they are saying and how life should live and the struggle that they're up against. And you talked about some other movies which have the same theme, like the one person, even Close Encounters, the one person believing in something. But this is more than that. This is redemption. This is a gentleman many people who sought redemption. The two brothers you just heard in that scene both of them redeemed themselves before the end of the movie in one way or another. And the fight scene, you want to talk about fight scenes, you want to talk about, the underdog overcoming. I can't speak highly enough about this movie, that it's so underrated. I bet you so many people haven't seen it. And you're not going to walk out of this movie not remembering what went on. I'm sorry to tell you. You have to know and remember and be affected by this movie.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. Although I don't agree it's underrated. I think it's one of the classic. Maybe people, it's not the first thing you think of when let's watch an old movie, right? But it is considered one of the classics of all time for the reasons you really just described, which I think were very well put, and I don't really have anything else to add to that.
There we go. I appreciate that. You might be right. When I say underrated, I sort of think of the younger crowd, and if I'm at a college party, talking to kids, none of them have seen this movie, and I just think maybe it's a different talk. Maybe I got something going with me. I don't like that it's so overlooked.
But see, they have an issue that you and I didn't have, because you and I. The movie started when? Talkies, let's say, right? In the 40s, right. 30s. You and I were growing up. Movies had been around for, 40 years or something? These kids, movies have been around for almost 100 years.
Right.
It's double, if not triple, the amount that's out there right now that they can go back and watch. So it's not like,
but it's not like
the same universe we're talking about here.
Running out of time, and I'm sorry about that. But we'll pick this up in the next section. But it's not out there for them to see. Like no one's telling them about it, except for everything old is new again.
It's too much competition.
Now, back to America's entertainment pop culture talk show. Everything old is new again, with Douglas Viviani and David Cohen.
I value my neck a lot more than $3,000, Chief. I'll find him for $3, but I'll catch him and kill him for $10. You gotta make up your minds. You wanna stay alive and ante up? You wanna play it cheap? Be on welfare the whole winter. $10,000 for me by myself. For that, you get the head, the tail, the whole damn thing.
Welcome back to Everything Old is New Again. Little Quint telling us a little something about how he's going to solve the issue of the huge man-eating shark in Jaws on the island of Amity. Let's talk about that. David Cohen.
Was that mine?
Yes.
Yeah. Robert Shaw. Oh, what a memorable character from that movie. Wow. I guess there are a lot of like horror type movies on this list, but that was another one that, one of the promos for that movie when it came out was something about being afraid to go in the water after you see the movie. They were absolutely right. There was a long time as a kid after I saw that I didn't, like, I'd go into the ocean, but I would only go so far because I was afraid. And I remember at the time, it was the special effects, the mechanical shark, which they had, which looked very lifelike. And just the thought of just the way they filmed it, right? Well, you didn't see the shark for most of the movie until the very end, yet you were terrified of it, right? People were being eaten and you saw them go down, but you didn't actually see the shark. You saw the blood and everything like that. So the suspense that was built up to this unseen monster that was under the water was done so well, I thought. And just the cast of characters that went out to look for him, this oceanographer and the local sheriff and this old sea captain, just three people who you'd never in a million years put together, right, in any situation. They were so different from one another, yet one of the great things about the movie was the bonding experience they had, right, in chasing down this shark, and the stories that they were telling each other were pretty funny. Yeah, so there was definitely the fear factor that it was just a horror movie. The fact that it happened in broad daylight at a place that you generally felt safe at, going to the beach with your family, suddenly that became like a scary place. It was just really, really great experience and fun to be scared like that, from what I remember.
And I also remember, let's say it was, 77, 78, this is 76, I think, this movie, and water skiing. My dad we were lucky enough to have the opportunity, had a boat, so we went to Long Island Sound much of the time, and went water skiing. And I remember, it was fall, so sooner or later I fell from water skiing or let go, whatever. And before the boat comes to, the boat goes, they notice you fall, but they're still half a mile ahead of you, still kind of, by the time they turn around and come back, and you're floating in the water, and the only thing that comes to mind is dude. And but it's for real. And you're looking around and you're like, you know what? I'm literally in the same exact situation that girl was in the beginning of that movie. Treading water.
Wow, that's
waiting. Right. totally exposed. So,
but
man.
How much, but when you just went, dun-dun, which was you knew the shark was coming when you heard that. How great was that, right? Just those two notes that they would play over and over. It just added so much to the fear of this thing,
Genius.
Right?
Genius. Don't know that they knew that it was genius at the time, they were just doing their job, but man, that was genius. As is this.
Is it done?
No, it's not done.
Don't overcook it. Overcook it's no good. It defeats its own purpose. What are you doing? I just said don't overcook it. You're overcooking it. Bring it over.
You want your steak?
Bring it over. Bring it over! It's like a piece of charcoal! Bring it over here!
You want your steak?
Yeah, right now!
Good. There's your steak. Can't wait for this to be done?
No, I can't wait.
Good. Okay? Happy? Happy?
That's all I want. That's all I want.
Here, not more. There.
You bothering me about a steak? Huh?
That's
You
great.
bothering me about a steak?
Yeah!
I'm sorry. I don't know how that got in there. That was my family last night. I was home early and I taped that. No. Raging Bull, another classic. David Cohen, this is one of yours. What do you have to say about this?
Yeah, it's just, I just appreciate that movie because it's so hard to watch because it's so dark and it's such a sad story. Right. There's nothing redeeming that comes out of this movie. There's no good part or outcome that's hopeful. It's just so dark. And it's like you heard in that scene, it's like being a fly on the wall, right? Watching this guy just descend into madness and just awful. And that's why I loved it, because it just, it was an experience that you don't get to enjoy, quote unquote, so much. I mean, there have been movies like it before, like Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf was another great movie. It was difficult to watch just because the people were just so miserable and yelling at each other. And this movie wasn't just about the yelling. That's not really the point, because you get bored after a while. Who wants to sit there and watch people yell all the time? But, you know, it was more about watching the downfall of this guy and the struggle to not go deeper and deeper into the insanity and the jealousy and the watching him self-destruct and then this slow burn over time where you just couldn't take your eyes off it, you know? So to me, it just because it was the movie it was, and I've never seen anything like it since or before. You know, it had an impact on me.
Real, true, honest to goodness slice of life of that Jake LaMotta and his career and his life, and ended up in jail, and then ended up poor comedian and so forth, and all alone. So there's lessons there too, you know, if you can control your temper, so to speak, if you will. But you know, what a great movie and an interesting view of life. As is this, a little more optimistic.
Ain't gonna be no rematch. Ain't gonna be no rematch.
Don't want one.
Here it's chaos. Rocky, you went the distance. You went the 15 rounds. How do you feel?
All right, I'm fine.
What are you thinking about when that buzzer sounds for that line? What do you think about when the 15th round when you're coming out?
Rocky.
All right, how about that for Rocky? Adrian loses her hat. If you remember at the end of that movie,
Is that what got you about the movie? The hat?
Yeah, I'm still looking for that hat as memorabilia. No, the symbolic nature of losing the hat and her old life ending, her new life beginning. Same thing with Rocky. You can overcome. I don't need to say too much about this movie. Everyone's, I think, seen it.
Yeah. Did you ever collect that piece of memorabilia, Adrian's hat?
Still looking for that. Yeah, still looking for Adrian's hat. We're going to get. Someday we're going to have that. In the Hall of Fame over here. That was an amazing movie. Great achievement. We've been showing that to Leo, my 9-year-old. He's seen 2 and 3 so far, and I look over one before the matches, before the end fights, and he's got his hands in the prayer. He's waiting and hoping that Rocky wins the different battles, right, Leo? What do you have to say about Rocky? What do you think of Rocky?
I love Rocky.
Tell me why.
Because he's the best person on the planet.
See that? How about that?
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Why didn't you show him the first Rocky? That was the best one ever.
Yeah, what's up with number 1, Leo?
We watched some of it in the basement when we were like fixing the doors.
Yes. So he at that point in time when he saw that 6 months ago said, "Oh, I've seen number 1, seen number 1." So I wasn't going to fight him. So we started with 3, we went to 2, and now this weekend we're going to watch Rocky 1. Correct, Leo?
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was
cool.
And what message? What do you like about? Why is he so great? And we'll move on. Why is he so great?
Because he's a boxer.
But what does he do? What makes him so great?
He fights back.
Yeah, he fights back against all odds, right?
Like that yelling guy in was that 3 or 2?
Clubber Lang. Yeah, he fights against Clubber Lang, the yelling guy, right?
Yeah.
And he shows you that you could win if you practice and work out, right?
Uh-huh.
And eat right, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, my man. Thank you for joining us here. Everything Old is New again.
Thanks, Leo.
See you in a few. Yeah. Okay. Now, that took a turn, but there we go. We have little
good.
visit
No,
here.
it's good to get a third opinion on this stuff. It's always you and me yapping back
Exactly.
and forth.
So, but Leo confirmed. I like that. Now, my final movie, something different. Here we go.
To my big brother George, the richest man in town.
What's that?
That's a Christmas present from a very dear friend of mine.
Look, Daddy, teacher says every time a bell rings, an angel gets his wings.
There we go. Touching movie.
Murray.
Very much in the mainstream now. I remember watching it when it was not back in the 80s. But the most important thing to that is, listen, he reads the book. He says, no man is a failure who has friends, right? So that's where I'm at. That's where I love that movie. That's why I love the show. And David Cohen, my friend for umpteen years, since 1977, I think. I don't want to count the years, but I would then suggest that I'm not a failure because I have David Cohen as a co-host and a friend
Doug.
on Everything Old is New Again. How about that?
That's very nice of you to say. I feel the same way.
There we go. So it's so nice to end on a nice note and a tear. Don't we all do that? Let's end something. Maybe we'll think about the future. What about? I don't know. Do you think that this movie I'm going to play right now would affect a bunch of shows that we could have in the future about Well, let's listen to this first and see.
Stop that, will you? What are you doing?
I'm trying to clear up my ears. You create a pressure inside your head. It opens up the eustachian tube.
Did it open up?
Uh-huh. I think I strained my throat.
This is so great.
Did that not make either of our lists?
It did not. And that's what I'm saying. So, number one, that movie should be on the list.
Absolutely.
And I think so, for sure. I agree with you. And number two, my question is, do we do a series of programs that say to the world, what television shows affected our lives? We just did the movies. How about one about TV shows?
I like it.
We'll be back next week to enjoy some more pop culture with David Cohen, Douglas Viviani, and Everything Old is New Again. Davey, you have anything else to say on the way out?
I don't. Have a great time.
Oh, boy. How about that for a sign-off?
Between the time we talk to you again.
Stop that, will you? What are you doing?
All right, well, we'll have to go with that. We'll be back next week on Everything Old is New Again.